2nd of November. Prosecutor's office. There he is. Kazuma. I thought it wouldn't be long before you paid me a visit, Ryunosuke. I was right about what I said, wasn't I? Sorry? That you have all the makings of a great defense lawyer. Oh, cheers, mate. Well, I always believed that you'd fulfill your dream of advocating in the British courts. I just never imagined for 1 second it would be as a prosecutor and across from you. Seeing you stand in a foreign courtroom, so gallantly realizing your dream, Kazuma-sama. I'm truly happy for you. And I am truly thankful to you, Judicial Assistant Mikutaba. Aww, give each other a hug. Ryunosuke, I always thought it would be fun for you and I to shake up the British legal system a little together. This isn't quite how I envisaged it, but yeah, that's fair. I suppose it's just another twist of fate. The choice of Steins Gate, one might say. I've learnt a lot of things during my time in London. About how Suzuto-san's father was himself visiting student here once, along with Judge Jigoku. And about what happened with your father. Then you'll have no difficulty understanding why I had no choice, why I had to find a way to get to Britain as a visiting student myself. Yeah, I want to hear it from you, Kazuma. I think that's fair. As you wish, Ryunosuke Naruhodo. Oh, it's converse. Alright then, converse! Wonder if there's anything we should really present to people thinking about it. Anything that would be directly linked to Kazuma. Maybe the Gregson photograph? Although, considering he's the prosecutor, he'd probably be like, I can't talk about these things, blah de blah de blah, you know. So, your disappearance. It's getting on for a year now, since what happened on the SS Burya. We were heading across the oceans from Japan to Great Britain, when a bizarre series of coincidences. You think it's a series of coincidences led to those tragic events? I thought I'd lost my best friend forever. I must have been unconscious for a long time. When I awoke, I was lying on a bed. It was a narrow little room. There was a posy of flowers by the pillow. It took me a little while to realize that I was in the cabin of a ship. I slipped out of the room and headed up onto the deck. Were you already suffering from amnesia at that point? Yes. I didn't know what had happened or where I was. There was just this voice in my head. You have something you have to do. Something no one else can know about. Go to Great Britain. Your task awaits you there. It was a calling I couldn't ignore. It compelled me relentlessly. Out on deck, I saw that I was on a huge steamship, and we were docked in a large port. It must have been Hong Kong. Yes, it must have been. Presumably just before they were due to carry your body off the ship. I had no idea of the situation, but I did have the feeling that this was in some way my last chance. So I concealed myself among the disembarking passengers and went ashore. Then I disappeared into the crowded streets of that foreign port city, so I could plan my onward journey to Great Britain. Your journey to Great Britain? Just under a year ago, with all my past memories lost to me, I was left behind in Hong Kong. Everything was foreign to me, The sights, the sounds, the smells. My head reeled. I was truly at a loss. I realized now that I had escaped as a dead man, with nothing but the clothes on my back. No money, of course. Oh, how terrifying for you. Luckily though, I had 2 feathers in my cap. I sold those feathers. They fetched for a fair price. One being your knowledge of English, I suppose. That's right. And on the back of that, I was able to pick up some work as a deckhand on a cargo ship. Eventually, after calling at countless ports, I finally arrived at Dover. That must have been some 3 months ago now. Your formidable tenacity of purpose showing itself again, even with the amnesia. I mean, the man had lost his memory and did literally nothing to his name. But he still managed to make his way to London on the opposite side of the world. Of course, I had no idea why I had moved heaven and earth to get here at that point. So, how did you end up becoming Lord Van Zykes' apprentice then? That can only be called an extraordinary stroke of luck, really. You see, I was stopped at the border because I had no papers, and they took me straight to Scotland Yard. And by sheer coincidence, Lord Strongheart was there to attend a meeting. That's when the second feather in my cap came into play. Would that have been your knowledge of the law? Yes, exactly. Lord Strongheart was curious about an Easterner with intimate knowledge of British law. He took me back with him to the Supreme Court and assigned me to the prosecutor's office. And then, 9 days ago, you finally got your memory back after the trial involving Drebber. Yes, I did. Ooh, I wanted more from that, but okay, your father, Genshin Sogi. Ever since I first met you at Yume, you talked about your dream. Mark my words, Ryunosuke. I'll be chosen as a visiting student and make my way to Great Britain someday. Did you know the entire time about what happened to your father here? Ooh, music's faded down. It's gonna be significant. 16 years ago. Aww. When my father left on that exciting trip to Great Britain, I was just a boy. We took a photograph together the day before his departure. It's my last memory of him. What I remember most about my father is his unswerving sense of justice. Yeah, we keep hearing that, and it's like, but that goes against the whole professor thing. So how does that work? That's why it's like, I don't feel like it's him. 6 years after he left, a gentleman called at our family home. He told me that Genshin, my father, had been taken ill in England and passed away. It was Professor Mikutaba, your father, Suzuto-san. Oh, my. Ever since then, the professor was very good to me. He even helped to fund my university education at Yume. I'll be forever in his debt. But nevertheless, I just couldn't bring myself to believe what he told me. Oh. And then one day, a letter arrived at our house from Britain. There was no indication of the sender, so I opened it assuming it was from an old acquaintance of my father. What I read in that letter changed my entire life. What did it say? It said that my father had been a mass murderer, and the writer cursed the Asogi name. Oh no. As a result of that letter, I found out what had been hidden from me all those years. A letter from Britain? Presumably the letter was sent from a relative of one of the victims. If whoever it was had been a member of the judiciary, he could have been present at the closed trial. The letter revealed that my father had been sentenced to death, executed for being a killer. I'm so sorry you had to find out that way. I imagine the British government did its very best to silence whoever sent that letter. But someone who knew the truth and couldn't bear the resentment was always going to be a problem. But still, it could have been written by anyone. Why would you believe such a thing? There was a newspaper cutting included with the letter. It was the first I'd ever heard of the professor and his terrible killing spree. Well, what did my father have to say about the letter? Didn't show him, did he? I couldn't bring myself to show it to him. What? Why not? Because he deliberately concealed the truth from me by telling me my father was taken by a fatal illness. That couldn't have been easy for him, and he'd done it out of consideration for my feelings. So instead, I showed the letter to Judge Jigoku, and what was his reaction? To the other visiting student. He faltered for the briefest of moments, but then he just laughed the letter off. But in that moment, I saw it on his face. He was undeniably shocked, shaken momentarily, before recovering his poise. A year later, my bereaved mother succumbed to the strain of grief, and she too passed away. That's when I made up my mind that one day, without fail, I would cross the seas to Britain and seek the truth for myself. The truth about my father, Genshin Asogi. And I wouldn't let anyone stand in my way. Oh, Kazuma-sama. The Reaper's Trial. It feels like, again, like it's just sort of like, oh, we'll jump conversation then. Reaper's Trial. What we learned today in court turned things completely on their head. It was an impressive piece of lawyering, Ryunosuke Naruhodo. Lord Van Zykes isn't the Reaper, you know. I almost don't want to believe it myself, but it turns out that Inspector Gregson himself, the victim, was... It's clear that the inspector was behind the Reaper's activity all along. I'm still not convinced. What? You mean you knew? The real question is, who's been giving orders to the inspector? Yes, Barak Van Zykes is the real Reaper. If Gregson is involved, the only way I can see it being a thing is like, he has to be involved in that sense of he's forced into it against his will, like the person who's doing it, which is probably Strongheart, has something on him and caused that to happen. And maybe because he was going to France, he killed him or stuff like that. There's a certain aspect to it which, like, it doesn't fit correctly based on the evidence we have. Not that they have, that we have. So it's, we'll see how it plays out, though. And I know that 10 years ago, it was him who decided my father must be a mass murderer and sent him to his grave. No, he was merely seeing that justice was done as the law dictates. He was not to blame. Ultimately, it's people who condemn people. The law is just a tool that they use to do it. That's fair. And when a man condemns another, he must take responsibility for his actions. Of course he must. But I know for certain that my father would never have taken another man's life. Kazuma. On the contrary, my father's life was taken by the Reaper. Okay. Well, let's see if we can get anything going on here, because it's like I said, I want to just test the waters here and see if there's anything he'll add to anything here. Like maybe we present this. Kazuma, what do you make of this? There's only one place where defense lawyers and prosecutors should discuss evidence, the courtroom. Yeah, this is what I was thinking. So it seems you're still confused by the situation. That's what I make of it. I get the feeling my friend is always going to have the edge over me, isn't he? Well, he's more learned in those ways. But yeah, I'm just feeling like any evidence we present, he's going to be like, I can't talk about it here. We have to do that in court. It's like, alright, fair enough. Right, so let's see what Suzuto says. Great detective's living room is always full of energy. Always feel so nervous here. I should love borrow books. Yeah, we haven't visited the governor's office, have we? Second of November, Berkeley Prison, Governor's Office. Oh, back again, are you? Yes? Hello? I've heard all about your investigations. I read the report just now. You found him, eh? Vigil. Yes, luckily. Well, anywho. The laddie doesn't work here no more. So your case is naught to do with Berkeley. I wouldn't like you to get the wrong idea about that. Of course, yes. Mr. Vigil stopped working here 10 years ago now, so... Yes, we've seen his dismissal notice, haven't we? He was given the chop. The chop? Alright. Kuma, you can very well. So, about a wee handcuff biscuit. Oh, they really are like little handcuffs. And as hard as irons, too. You got a dunk 'em, haven't you? So, what's brought you down here today? Well, there's something else we'd like to ask you about, actually. Is that so? We believe there might have been a document that disappeared from Genshin Asogi's cell. Think it's been called the Asogi Papers or something? Like, if we can get our hands on, like, the Asogi Papers, maybe we could go present that over to Kazuma. Because that's not evidence directly with the case. It's more sort of like you want to show that to Kazuma, don't you? Because he'll react regardless. Did I know, say? Gregson's death is no to do with things that might have happened at Berkeley. Leave the past in the past, laddie. Let's not foot about with irrelevant details. His expressions changed completely. We're clearly onto something here. Alright, Converse. 10-year-old legacy. That murderer's botched execution and the whole miserable escape. They were Berkeley's darkest hour. Shocking embarrassment. Because the convict had a collaborator on the prison staff, you mean? Aye, for shame. The coroner who confirmed the death of the man after his execution, Courtney Scythe. And my chief warder at the time, Vigil, who was in charge of the whole affair. But Mr. Vigil says he didn't know anything about it. A rascal, wouldn't they say otherwise, eh? More handcuffs? Oh, how could I say no? You can never have too much iron in your diet. I mean, you can. Just look what happened in, X-Men. When Mr. Vigil was handed his dismissal notice as a result of what had happened, he was so despairing he jumped out of your office window, didn't he? I had to get it repaired. I didn't like to say, but that's just Vigil trying to get out of it. Do you think he wouldn't have jumped from the shock of his crimes being exposed, eh? I do. You wouldn't say otherwise, though, would you? Of course, I can't shun all responsibility myself. I shouldn't have let him deceive me. Actually, there's barely anybody that kens what went on at the time now. Just the Kens. With Gregson having been murdered and Dr. Sai forbidden from having any visitors. No visitors? Someone obviously doesn't want her giving anything away. Well, we're not going home empty-handed. No, I wouldn't dream of sending you packing with no Kimmer. Here, take a handcuff or two. Oh, Well, it would be rude to say no. Wouldn't want to become anemic. Oh god, no, you wouldn't. Trust me. I suppose if there's anybody who might still ken about what happened back then, it'd be that lass from the forensic division, Maria Gori. Maria Gori, isn't that... Yeah, Maria Gori, top right. Righto, righto. Aye, Sive's daughter. She didn't have no more, just the one. But the wee bairns followed in her mam's footsteps. Didn't they ever see her without a scalpel in her hand? Ah. Yeah, we've seen her before. Mama, what is this? Ah, where did she spring from? And did she just call the doctor Mama? Ooh. Dr. Sive's daughter, Maria Gori. We could do with talking to her. Gori! So, she's Dr. Sive's daughter, but her surname is Gori? Aye, there's some family history, I'm sure, but I didn't ken the ins and outs of it. She grew up watching her mam work with bodies of folk who died in strange circumstances, and decided to do the same with her own life. Can I understand it myself? Perhaps she was driven by a deep respect for her mother. Perhaps. Anywho, she was in charge of Gregson's autopsy, I believe. Right, and the coroner responsible for this incomplete report. Someone told me once that the wee lassies always loved her mam's stories about cutting up bodies. There's even a rumour that she used to listen to the funeral march as a lullaby. Well then perhaps her mother might have told her about the autopsy on the case 10 years ago. I'd say there's a fighting chance at least. After all, that was a life-changing case for all of us. We really need to speak to Miss Gori herself about this, I think. Well, thank you very much. I'm no happy about any part of this. It took years for Londoners to finally forget the old professor business. Can you give up on this, laddie? Stop asking pointless questions. I'm sorry. Don't like dredging up these painful memories for everyone. Can just stay away now? Leave me alone and then they come back, eh? These soggy papers. How'd you come to ken about that, laddie? There's no many folk even here in prison who've heard of those papers. Ah, well, I'll tell Mr. Vigil. Tell him Mr. Vigil told me. I'm afraid our sources must remain confidential, sir. We've been led to believe the papers are actually a last will and testament. Is that right? The professor's, or rather, Genshin Asogi's. Aye, that's right. You're well informed, Jimmy. Oh, is that the end of the silent treatment? But then after the convict's execution, it mysteriously vanished from his cell, didn't it? Havers, no. Havers, no? You're offered half-cocked there. I think you didn't quite get your facts straight. It was there in the cell, exactly where it should have been. Oh. Not what we heard elsewhere. Let me just have a wee oak around in here. Sure I can find it. Ah, here you are. See? The last will and testament of Genshin Asogi. Written with a calligraphy brush. Of course, I cannot read a word of those Japanese squiggles. But I mind it says he leaves all his worldly possessions to his son back in his homeland. Yes, that's correct. And that's the gist of it. So these are the Asogi papers? Of course they are. Papers written by Asogi. No doubt about that. There's no mystery here, laddie. That's your lot. I don't know, there's gotta be something, isn't there? After all the stramish of that sleister of an execution? Sleister? We sent the man's possessions back to his clan in Japan. And that was the end of it. I think we ought to make a record of this, Mr. Naruhodo, just in case. The Sogi papers have been entered into the court record. One thing before you go on your way, Mr. Naruhodo. Oh? Yes? Those papers are note to do with Gregson's death. I'd prefer if you didn't make no mention of them outside this office. Or rather, when they just prefer it. Consider it an order from the highest levels of our government. I understand. So I can't show them to Kazuma, but I wanna. When I'm gonna have a look. I, Genshin Isogi, hereby request that upon my death, any and all material possessions and wealth belonging to me in London be delivered to my son Kazuma Isogi in the Empire of Japan. It is with deep sadness that I accept my fate in this foreign land, in the knowledge that I will never see my homeland or family again, but I regret nothing about my chosen path. Why can I not show that to anyone? There's not exactly much going on there, right? I'm instantly going to try. Because of course I am. What do you make of this? Yeah, it's gonna be the same again. Again, I can't speak of anything outside of court. Right, so, what we got? Oh, attic room. Just want to see what, like, she's saying here. See if there's anything she's pointing us towards. Decorations here, the governor's face. They're as terrifying as each other. In some ways, this place seems rather suited. Oh dear, what do I say out loud? Okay, so this, like, this is leading me to believe there's something else here then. Are you sure we've asked everything we need to, Mr. Naruhodo? There's nothing left on the converse. Is there anything like the examine, maybe? Like, the only thing that's different is this, so maybe that... What the? It's a scale model of the crime scene. Oh, yes, I realize that. Does the prosecution office make a model of the scene for every single case? Apparently so. Sometimes it helps to visualize things better and notice things you hadn't spotted before. Actually, the miniature notice board is my work. Be honest, you enjoyed making that. Okay. Right, so the only line that I think we got in terms of everything we've been led to discuss, I believe was not what I wanted to say there. Where the line of inquiry is gone is very much with Maria Gori. And is there any way I can present Maria Gori other than the evidence? Because he won't want to have the evidence. Maybe that? Because that's not connected to the case? No. There's got to be something in the evidence. But what? Don't think it'd be on that. Like, the only thing I can think of is the Gory thing. That's the only thing that's come up with Caidan, wasn't it? That maybe would add something else to everything. So let's give it a go. Let's give it a go. Yes! This came up in the trial, didn't it? As something a little dubious, I mean. The fact that no time of death was recorded on Inspector Gregson's autopsy report. Yes, there were some unexpected turns in the courtroom earlier. The suggestion you came up with certainly took everyone by surprise. The idea that the victim died the previous day at some other location is quite something. Well, considering when the pocket watch had stopped and the scorch marks on the candle, it's certainly a distinct possibility. The evidence and the scene both point to it. To be honest, it bothered me too. So I paid a visit to the autopsy room earlier. The coroner responsible wasn't there, but I got a name. It's Dr. Gori. If it wouldn't trouble you, Kazuma-sama, We'd very much like to speak with the coroner too. Of course. The last thing I want is for anything to be brushed under the carpet. Scotland Yard's autopsy laboratory is behind Lowgate Cemetery. Lowgate Cemetery? At Berkeley Prison, you mean? Ah, you know it, do you? The prison where my father was incarcerated and robbed of his life. Kazuma-sama. Well, thank you. We'll pay a visit to the laboratory later today. Ryunosuke, I want to thank you. What for? For this. You safeguarded the soul of the Isogi clan. Well, it is a famous sword that's been in your family for generations. Huh. My only slight regret is that I never got the chance to draw it before I returned it to you. Karuma is said to have been forged by a master swordsmith during the Sengoku Warring States period. I come from a long lineage of warriors, many of whom were expert swordsmen. Oh then, you're a chip off the old block, I'd say. This blade, Karuma, is the symbol of the Isogi clan's honor and might. Apparently, one of my father's apprentices even took the blade's name for a surname. Really? Karuma? It does sound formidable, that's for sure. 16 years ago, when my father was a visiting student here in London, he had this sword forever at his side. Which is why it means so much to me that I have it by my side again now, too. And that is all thanks to you. It was an honor. Now, I have preparations to make for tomorrow. Perhaps I said a little too much. Kazuma, you've changed. No, Ryunosuke. I haven't changed at all. It's you who's changed. I can completely understand your resentment of Lord Van Zykes given what happened. But the fact is, those events in this case are, well, unrelated? Is that what you want to say? I mean, they're not. Clearly they're not. How can you be so sure? What do you mean? Never mind. That man is the Reaper, and it's for that reason that the inspector was killed. I'm going to prove as much in court tomorrow, by whatever means necessary. I can't let you do that, Kazuma. I know you'll do what you have to as a lawyer, but I'm sure I don't need to tell you that I won't be taking any prisoners in the courtroom. I would expect nothing less. Until tomorrow then, in the Old Bailey. Until then. Right, so, what we got? There we go. Let's head over to the forensic laboratory.